All right, here we are, the third and final installment of our little mini-series, Shifting the College Football Landscape. This is part 3, Reclaiming the West, B-Homes. If you haven't been watching, and this is your first episode you're seeing, we've had a 3-part mini-series talking about reshifting and restoring parity in college football and how this most recent coaching cycle could create the perfect storm to make that happen. We talked about South Florida and the U. So if you haven't watched that video, watch it after this. We talked about a trio of blue bloods and how those 3 teams becoming true national title competitors again might rebalance things. And then now the West Coast. B. Holmes. Let's talk about the West, man.
Let's talk about the West. All right, so obviously we know the hot new hire on the West Coast is our guy Lincoln Riley down at USC, which is well-deserved. But I'm about to go on a limb and say something here, Trey, that I think national pundits wouldn't agree with me. I think the casual fan wouldn't really agree with me. And, I mean, the Lincoln Riley hire, fireworks, think it's phenomenal. I think he's going to do great at USC. But I think most people are sleeping on Dan Lanning down out there in Oregon, the former defensive coordinator from Georgia that took the head coaching job at Oregon.
Yes.
Here's where I say Lincoln Riley's course to the Pac-12 championship and ultimately CFP isn't as easy as everybody thinks it is. One, Lanning isn't inheriting an empty cupboard. Now, we see what Lincoln Riley is doing. We see him attacking the transfer portal. We see him recruiting, right? But it's not. Cristobal didn't leave an empty cupboard at Oregon. It is, let's not forget, he just sent 3 first-round draft picks, like high draft picks,
3 years in a
the
row.
NFL draft, 3 years in a row.
Yeah.
And there's some other guys coming up. There's some other guys coming up the pipeline.
Yeah.
2, recruiting isn't as vast and far away from each other as people want to make it seem. As we just saw, who did Oregon just pluck away?
That's right.
From USC?
Connerly Jr. Now, he's a Washington kid, but all signs were pointing to USC.
He was going at USC, and he ends up at Oregon. And you're telling me Lanning, who's just spent a nice chunk of time at Georgia, going toe-to-toe with Alabama's recruiting staff, didn't learn how to pick up a few tricks up his sleeve to learn how to recruit hard. And I know he didn't get a lot of credit as far as, well, he got some credit for the defensive side of Georgia, but, everybody kept saying, he was sharing, I forget the coach he was sharing responsibilities with. Was it Muschamp?
Yeah, Muschamp.
Yep. But I'm telling you, man, I'm going to say if I have to bet, and I'm going out on a limb. If I have to bet who's going to have the most successful next 5-year run, I'm going to go with Oregon.
That's a hot take.
I'm going to go with Oregon because and I really spent some time thinking about this when you texted me the subject. Everyone's going to say recruiting, true, but if we're in this era of NIL, what was founded at Oregon again? What's the brand that every kid wants to wear again? What kind of NIL deal, sponsorship, ambassador deal that you can't get anywhere else that can be only orchestrated at Oregon? Now you can sell people on the Hollywood lights and all that and that, but that's not every kid. Think about this, and this is where I'm saying, if I'm a defensive tackle, that LA doesn't do anything for me. Unless I'm a receiver, I'm a quarterback, I'm a DB, or I'm, maybe I'm a big time defensive end. For the most part, if I'm not a skill guy, LA is not going to be too lovely to me. It's like, oh, okay. It's not like they're going to put Connerly Jr. on the front page in LA. No, they're going to put Caleb Williams.
Right.
But if I go to Oregon, where all they do is care about football, where all I do is I'm at the school that Nike was created, where they're going to take care of me, and I'm coming to a guy. If I have to pick coaches, I'm not saying Lincoln Riley isn't a good head coach, but we just watched what Georgia did nationally as a defense. We just watched it. I'm going to say that was one of the best college football defenses I've ever seen in my life.
Ever. We said it all season on the Blue Bloods podcast. We said it
all season on the podcast. What is Riley kind of known for in big games when it comes to playing real competition?
Giving up 54 points a game.
We just said it on the last video.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to say the hot take. I'm not saying I don't like Lincoln Riley. I'm not saying I don't think Lincoln Riley is going to be successful. I'm just not ready to crown him the king of the West Coast just yet. I think what Oregon is doing is going to be I just think I'm ready to give it to them more than anything.
So I have one thought and a question.
Yep.
My thought is this as it gets to Lincoln Riley, and I've gone on record plenty of times expressing what I believe Lincoln Riley is going to do at USC. I don't feel like I need to take up this video to regurgitate all that. Just go watch a previous video. In fact, go watch our most recent Jordan Addison video. I think I reset it there. But if anything, if nothing else, I think Lincoln Riley at USC hurts other programs from this standpoint. Guys like CJ Stroud, guys like Bryce Young, they're not leaving the state with Lincoln Riley at USC. I don't believe. It was much easier to leave the state and not go to a place. I mean, you got this blue blood program, rich tradition and history right there in your backyard. Yet you want to leave and go to places like Ohio State, Clemson, Alabama. It was so much easier to do that under the previous regime.
Yeah.
Now that Lincoln Riley's in town,
The quarterback whisperer, I give him that.
and he's bringing up film of Baker Mayfield, who he did coach and develop like all 3 years, by the way, because those first 2 seasons he was the OC.
Yep.
Kyler Murray, even Jalen Hurts. I mean, who else can say they've got 3 starting quarterbacks in the NFL? Well, I guess Baker. We'll see what happens with him.
Right. By the end of this,
as of this past season, he had 3 starting quarterbacks in the NFL. So, and then now he's got Caleb Williams. He's got 2 Heisman Trophy. I mean, all those things. But here's my question, because I love the Lanning hire as well. And when he pulled Connerly Jr. and sure, utilizing the Nike and all that, but still, I mean, it's his program. Could we see what it would have been like had Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly been in the same era? Because if you remember, Pete Carroll was basically out as soon as Chip Kelly came in. And so it was kind of like there was this passing of the baton for Pac-12 dominance, which in turn resulted in national dominance, because obviously we all know what Pete Carroll did at USC, but don't forget, Oregon was
no
playing
slouch
for a national title.
Yeah, they were no slouch.
And then twice, actually. Now, I'm not saying I know the second time wasn't under Chip Kelly, but it was his squad. I mean, it was basically still his team. In fact, I won that like maybe a year or 2 after he left to go to the NFL with the Mariota and all that. So
that was a good squad. Man, that was a good team.
So he played for one, almost, if not for that fluke play against
that
Auburn.
Play at the end,
Oregon's a national champion. And then I think they got it handed to him with Urban Meyer's Ohio State.
Second time.
Zeke put it on him. But bottom line is with Lanning being at Oregon now, Riley being at USC, the ceiling that both of those guys have, Riley already being a proven head coach, could we see Oregon and USC kind of take the place or have a rivalry, or what am I trying to say here? Kind of have the same level of success that Kelly had at Oregon and Carroll had at USC, but it happening at the same time.
I think so, and I think it's great for Pac-12. I think if Lanning can establish a defense like he did at Georgia, I think it's perfect, because now you have strong defense, and we know Lincoln's team is going. Man, Riley's teams are going to light up a scoreboard.
Right.
Like, I mean, the dude,
especially out west.
I mean, it's going to be great. I think we are stepping into this era of Pac-12 football that it's, and we said it all year in the Blue Bloods podcast, like, who cares about the Pac-12? Like, we never talked about the Pac-12.
We never talked about it.
I think this shifts everything that we really are like, okay, like, what's going to happen? And I'm going to stand on it. I just think Oregon gets there a little bit faster, and I'm willing to just based upon what's already in the cupboard, what's this culture that's already, because we know Cristobal, he had a strong culture.
Yeah, Cristobal, yeah.
And I think if Lanning can kind of like continue that, clearly had to do something right at Georgia on that defense to have with, because this defense was elite, but it's not like they've just had whack defenses before that. Like this defense we just saw was just elite. I think it's going to be great. So I'm going to step on the limb and say that we're going to look back in 5 years, and I'm not saying Lincoln's not going to have success at USC. I just think Oregon is probably going to come out with a better record at the end of 5 years when we kind of review what happened in the rearview mirror.
Well, bottom line is, if both of those teams can sort of enter an era of dominance at the same time, that's going to completely build a fence around the West Coast. Yep. And these guys will not be going across the country to play. They're going to be staying either Southern California or Eugene, Oregon. And not only will that enhance Pac-12 football, but that's going to take away from some of these other programs that have been able to build a dominant team off the talent from the West. So if you've watched, we appreciate you watching the series, or even if you just watched this video, leave us a comment, leave us a like, hit subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that thanks icon down there.
Yes,
leave
sir.
us some financial support. Watch the other 2 videos if you haven't. Let us know your feedback. We're going to kind of keep hitting you with some different mini-series throughout the summer until we get into the college football season. You know, week 0, the Blue Bloods podcast will be returning, our weekly show. And then, of course, also in that time, we're going to have some guests. We've got
I'm super excited
former
about that.
Super Bowl champions. We got a former national champion. I mean, we got some guys lined up that are really good. So
it's gonna be dope.
Appreciate you watching.